inspired. I'm inspired. Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumedh Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I got a question, and the question is, what are the best ways to dissociate from your ego and lose your sense of self, especially the inner critic? Alright? Now I've been meaning to make this video. I think it's a very powerful question, and a lot of people ask me this question. Now first of all, I want you to understand a few things, just setting the frame here, okay? The first thing is to understand, to reframe the inner critic, okay? Reframing the inner critic. Just the word itself makes you very critical of yourself, okay? So instead of the inner critic, I want you to see it as the inner caretaker, okay? It's the inner caretaker, and it sounds critical, but it wants what is best for you, because the ego is there to help you to survive and protect yourself, okay? We don't want to dissolve our ego completely and lose our sense of self completely. Otherwise, we can't function in the physical world. So what I assume that you're asking is how to shut the ego off temporarily so you can rewire your subconscious mind, or basically come from that 0 point position, or the choice point in the sense, the observation spots of enlightenment where you can tell, okay, now I know what to do, or being the cause and the choice point of your life, essentially, right? That's what ego death helps you do, is it crumbles down the identity so you can recreate your identity according to how you want it. And I'm assuming that's what you're asking me. So the way to shut off your egoic mind is, first of all, getting out of your head and into your body, okay? Physically, just completely being embodied in a specific task, okay? Now this could be some form of exercise, okay? This can be some sort of taking action, because how do you solve an insecurity? You act on it, right? How do you tackle desire? You act on it. These meditators and monks, you know, you see them trying to abolish desire. You see, it's a paradox. The desire to get rid of desire is still a desire. You get what I'm saying? So we can't really get rid of this ego thing completely. It's gonna be with us. We got to become friends with it. And what I want to say here is, you don't want the ego to be in the driver's seat. You want it to be in the passenger seat, okay? So how do you do that? You speak from your heart, okay? You speak from your heart, and you speak from your truth. You speak from your authenticity, because the ego wants to kind of preserve itself, and it shows your kind of cool version of you. Hey, look at me, man, right? But instead, if you just simply treat it like, okay, I need to be vulnerable in this moment and tell you about something really deep and personal, right? That's what shuts down the ego. And again, it's really about tapping into the other regions of your brain and shutting off the prefrontal cortex, right? In flow state, we call it transient hypofrontality. So it's shutting off the analytical part, the overthinking part of the brain, which is right here. You might really want something, but you can't have society see that. So what you might do is, you'll go and do it in secrecy. Okay, this is not the way to go about it. Okay, anyway, let's get into it. And as I start talking about it more, I'm sure you'll get some ideas. 1, gibbering. I got this from Elliot Hulse. Start gibbering. Have you ever seen, like, people try this, like, light language or something? It's like, essentially they just let go, like a lot of channelers or like esoteric gurus or spiritual YouTubers, they kind of do this kind of light language stuff. Now, I've experienced something similar, and I don't know what you'd call it, but this is my perspective. I think what they're doing, essentially, is they're shutting off their ego as they're just letting go and gibbering. Okay? So if they're going, right? As they're just speaking gibberish, speaking nonsense, speaking their own invented language, as if it's light language, as if it's a code from something else. Like, maybe I was speaking the language of the Anunnaki or something right then. But I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, the thing is, when you do that, it just completely shuts off your egoic mind, because it's not thinking in logical, categorical, linguistic terms. Right? Our brains, our mind, essentially, is trying to understand things all the time. When it has something that it doesn't understand, it's going to try to find it, but then it won't be able to capture it. So when you let go and you start gibbering, you notice a lot of spiritual ecstasis or like religious experiences. People will just convulse, right? Have seizures on the floor and start shaking. That's another way, right? Shaking actually reproduces that state of like the fight or flight. It tackles the limbic system and the limbic part of the brain where it's like, hey, I'm actually trying to protect myself, right? Like shake like a wet dog in the rain. Just like, just start doing that, man. And that's a great way to shut off your ego. And I've noticed that a lot of, trauma release also takes place when you're shaking. Now, there's a lot of scientific evidence for this. I'm not going to get into that in this video, okay? But I just want to say that, look up some TRE, okay? Trauma release exercises, bioenergetics. A lot of this kind of stuff basically shuts off the ego. Of course, there's the general psychedelics that what people say, just take psychedelics, it'll shut off your ego. The thing is, with psychedelics, you kind of see behind the puppet strings. It's almost like, again, as I mentioned, the 0 point position, right? You become awake in the matrix, okay, as you'd call it in reality transurfing, right? I'm not a huge proponent of psychedelics because, again, this is the work that I'm getting into is work that, I want to bypass the use of psychedelics because, again, I believe in it not as a recreational thing. Basically, it's a spiritual cheat code, and in a way, you do get a lot of expansive experiences. It's not the main thing. Again, I just want to say, don't break the laws of the land, don't break the rules of where you are, and partake in this kind of stuff, because, again, I believe in it medicinally and not recreationally, right? If you do something like DMT breathing, okay, or look up DMT breathing, or even Wim Hof has a variant of this DMT breathing. That's a really quick way to shut off the egoic mind, and it'll get you that psychedelic state. So again, you don't want to dissociate from your ego, you just want to have your ego be on your squad and not have it be against you. You know how Carl Jung said, until you call the unconscious conscious, you'll label it as fate and it will direct your life, right? You want to differentiate between conscious action and just Shia LaBeouf, like, just do it, right? Just do it! That's ego. Conscious action would be the way to go about this thing to shut down the ego, okay? Ways to access this state of egolessness, or, again, all you're doing basically, you're going from conscious mind to unconscious or subconscious mind, and you do this through listening to theta wave binaural beats, or hypnosis, trance, getting into trance states, chanting, dancing, all sorts of ecstatic practices, channeling. You'll notice a lot of singers, right? Or freestyle rappers, very majestic performers on stage or public speakers. They reach that flow state, right? When they're performing, they're thinking they are the audience. They're not thinking I'm up here and I'm giving a speech to people down there. They're thinking I'm a part of the tribe, I'm a part of the group. So the way you can actually kill the ego is to understand that you're just a reflection of everybody else. And that's why in the spiritual community people say, oh, I'm just like a mirror to you, brother, right? I'm just a mirror. But it's true. You see what I'm saying? Like, we are all connected and we are these projections of each other. So it's important to understand that, and when you have that understanding, you don't get that tense feeling inside that the ego creates. I used to think that the ego was a bad thing when I was younger. It's all about how it helps you to become the best you. So the power of excess potential dissipates in the process of action. Why is there always thunder in the background of my most powerful videos? I don't know. Satori. So the ego can really help you love yourself. People with a healthy ego know that greatness is not an accident, that they've actually worked hard for something, and so they're not really showing off. It's just they understood that they're just declaring and demonstrating who they are to the world, right? They just love themselves. People who take lots of selfies, they just love themselves, but if you're at a lower consciousness, you might look at that and be like, look at these egotistical people, right? Taking selfies of themselves. Well, that's actually egotistical to say. You see, a lot of people who are like, man, that's so egotistical, right? Or there's so much ego in you. Look, that's actually pretty egotistical to say, because you're making an assumption and you're still in the I reality. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to state, yo. Notice when you're saying I. Notice whenever you are saying the word me or I, that is when you spot the ego and you can consciously subdue it. Okay? Either by closing your eyes and just make your eyes face upwards, okay? Kind of like the Undertaker, and just drop your head like you're in an airplane and you fall asleep. And just give yourself a little neck massage. Okay? That's a really good one. Notice when you say I. Just catch yourself every time that you're saying I. Oh, I'm tired. Are you tired? Or is the conscious mechanism of your own body tired? Okay? Have you overworked your body? I'm hungry. Are you hungry? Or is the mechanism of your body, right, producing a learned response of hunger to this particular food, which is giving you satiety, right? So this is what I'm saying, yo. Like, just be able to spot when you're saying me or I. Oh, that doesn't happen to me. Who is the me, right? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Are you a lawyer? Or is that a role that you're playing? You see what I'm saying? So whenever you are saying I, you just catch yourself, and that's the way that you practice temporarily distancing yourself from your inner critic, okay? Last thing, I'm gonna go inside for the last one, yo, because it's too windy and it's raining and it's, you know, I'm gonna get wet. So yeah, let me continue inside. See you soon. Alright, Kimosabe, so I'm back in my humble abode, turning on the air conditioning. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. I want to end by saying this, okay? You want to neutralize the inner critic or the inner caretaker by knowing what it's saying or what it's bringing up. Let's say that the inner critic is bringing up a time that your art teacher said that your painting or your drawing looks kind of like a stick figure, or it looks like a 10-year-old drew it, or something like that. They made some comments about you and your artwork, and then later on in your life it stopped you from pursuing art because you thought that that was the truth. And you related that to your own storyline in reality. So technically your ego, right, stopped you from getting that life that you wanted. So now what you can do is next time you get that thought, you can actually practice this visualization. In your mind, you imagine you take duct tape and you put it around that teacher's mouth. Okay? The next time that they say that. And you're just reproducing the scenario in your mind. Now you're going back and you're just... And the teacher's... Right? Now of course you're not doing this, this is visualization, but let me just tell you that this idea of neutralization of your past events can be extremely powerful and can make you extremely hardworking. Okay, this is what I've noticed. Check in with your own body, right? Go into your own body and just whatever upset, the thing that upsets you, and this is a process I learned from Insanely Gifted, right? I did a flow state workshop for a day, and essentially it's about deep body listening, right? Full body listening. So let's say that the event was somebody yelled at you. Let's say your mother yelled at you, right? You go in internally and you notice where do you feel that within your body, the upset. Maybe you feel it in your throat because you wanted to say something but you didn't, okay? So now you imagine, okay, what color is it? Your ego is actually helping you in this case because the ego helps you to construct things, right? So you're actually using it to deconstruct it, which is powerful. It's a powerful process. So you imagine, okay, it's like a yellow ball of yarn in my throat. Okay. With each breath, I'm releasing the yellow ball of yarn in my throat. What is it doing now? What is the ball of yarn? The ball of yarn is less. It's transformed into... it's transformed into a yellow ball now. It's not a ball of yarn anymore. Interesting. I'm going to make that yellow ball bounce, and bounce, and bounce, and bounce, again and again. Letting it go with my breath. Now how does that tension feel? And you keep doing this, you keep transforming the object, you're basically categorizing that feeling into an object. You're objectifying it technically, right? You are externalizing it. You are externalizing an internal feeling, right? It's a very powerful technique because you're using the ego to actually construct that, but in the end, from you actually processing and feeling through your emotions, it's actually going to release that upset or that mini trauma, okay? So this is a very powerful technique. Use it wisely. I hope this helped you out. I have thousands of techniques like this, of course, if you work with me one-on-one. So if you are listening, hit me a message on Instagram. I'm going to help you out with any other techniques that you need. But these are just the ones that came up for me. I hope that they help you out. I hope you crush your ego today. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Boom.